I want to talk about three things today. The first one is boredom. If you are so bored that you create a cell phone on a banana, that's bored, right? I also want to talk about babies. I want to talk about how I maybe need a new battery in my remote. There we go. I want to talk about babies, and I want to talk about Beijing. 3 Bs to start our morning. Now, I know what you might be thinking. In the introduction, you were supposed to talk about talent and the next generation, and what does boredom, babies, and Beijing have to do with any of that? As one of my favorite professors in college used to say, I'm an economist, I will pull all of this together. That really brings me to the notion of boredom, because what we know from young professionals is they might have 9, 10, 11. Now, guidance counselors are telling kids in high school they might have to have up to 15 jobs in their lifetimes. So for the next generation, where they work is going to change. But where they live is becoming part of their identity. You know, if you sit next to a young person on a plane today and you say, where are you from? You might hear them say, or you say, what do you do? And they would say something like, well, I live in Austin and I program, right? Or you hear this very frequently. And notice that the identity is being hung on the hook of place, not on the hook of the name of my employer or even what it is that I do, but on where I live. I want to talk quickly about babies. Actually, what I really want to do is check my time and see how much time I have to talk about. Okay, I got plenty of time. Good. My friend Jim Armstrong, great guy. He's worked in advertising and communications all of his life. And he was one of those guys who was like one of the madmen. I mean, not exactly like Don Draper, but very similar. You know, kind of an old boys club. They would get the product, you know, they would get a company to come in and bring the product, and everybody would try the product, and then they would try to write some snappy copy and figure out how to market and advertise the product. And he had a turning point in his life because one day a diaper company came in to get their, you know, to say like, would you work with us? And they brought in a whole bunch of diapers. And so everybody around the table started tearing open the diapers and opening the diapers and playing with the flaps and stretching the material, you know, all this kind of stuff. And Jim said he had a moment of complete clarity. He realized that everyone at that table was a man, and none of them had probably ever had much experience changing diapers. They all had stay-at-home wives. They all had children, yes, but they all were living in an environment where they didn't have to change diapers. And he said, in that moment, I thought, I'm a fraud. If I think that I'm going to be able to write snappy copy about diapers, I'm kidding myself. So he left and he started his own business, and he's very happy. But I think Jim's moment of clarity and of insight is really important. Because as you think about next-gen Charleston, you have to be able to see it through the eyes of the actual user, right? In a lot of communities, the way that decisions get made is that the usual suspects, the people who are on the boards of everything, who tend to be more experienced in their careers, sitting at the top of the food chain within their organization, come in and make the decisions on what the next strategy will be. That's not happening here. With the kickoff of our project today, the Next Gen Charleston project today, what the Chamber has done very intentionally has said, the next generation not only will be involved, they must be involved. Because the solutions that come out of this are the ones they will inherit, the ones that they will be responsible for executing. And this is remarkable. Beijing, final story. Go to the next slide. Do any of you remember this? This was the Beijing Summer Olympics, the men's quarterfinal, or the men's qualifying 4x100. I don't know if you notice that little red thing down there. That is supposed to be in either that dude's hand or in that dude's hand. It is not supposed to be falling on the ground. We dropped the baton. The women did it too. It was so humiliating. What's ironic is we had the fastest teams on paper. We did. We weren't just supposed to get through the qualifying round. We were supposed to be getting the gold medals in these 2 races. We didn't. Why? Because they had spent so much time being superstars, excelling in their own personal race events. They didn't spend enough time passing the baton. So my challenge to you is to ask yourself, you know, which role you want to play. Are you the incoming runner who's been running with the baton for quite a while, and you're ready to pass it off? Are you the outgoing runner who's ready to receive the baton? Right? Because if you're the incoming runner and you've been running with the baton for a while, I know you might be thinking you want to give it up. The economy's been brutal, you've done your time, right? But here's what I'm going to ask you. Like in track, to pass it off, you sometimes have to grab the hand of the outgoing runner and make sure that baton gets in that hand. So, who are you bringing to sit with you at meetings like this? Members of the next generation. Who's helping you think about the future of your organization, right? Who are you preparing to pass the baton off to? And if you're the outgoing runner, specifically I'm talking to you, members of the next generation. If you want to receive the baton and you want to be a future leader in this community, you can't phone it in, you can't tweet it in, right? You have to make a good stick hand. You have to make a good target. And that means showing up, eyeball to eyeball, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow.